Welcome to Fireteam Chat, IGN's Destiny show. Joining me today is Fran Mirabella.
Hey, Guardians.
Sean Finnegan.
Hello, everyone.
And you guys are here, and we're going to chat with you about some cool Destiny topics. We're going to hit on the Bungie weekly update, which we do every week, but also we're going to take a look at the kind of chatter that's happening in the community right now, including how they feel about old DLC, and how they feel about some of the design philosophies with the new raid and old raids.
Not a show about PvP for once.
Yeah, right?
All right.
It's kind of nice. So first up, the big news, the weekly update.
I don't know if it's big news, but it's a news.
The post that Bungie made about the thing.
They said they're going to do Twitch streams, and they've been working on a little setup so they could do it easily. And now they've talked about a little bit of the programming that they're thinking about.
Yeah, so what they're going to do initially. So first of all, they're going to do ride-alongs. You're going to basically hang out with Bungie, and we're going to get to see behind the scenes of how they created levels. They've done this before. They've done it with Cosmodrome. They've done it with Mars. And they're kind of cool. You get some designer insights as to like challenges that they had designing the levels.
It's really just behind the scenes. I mean, I'm sure they've been thinking about this for a very long time, but you're so busy in your day-to-day jobs, it's hard to carve out. I think hey, can 3 of you go spend an hour to go do a Let's Play? It's funny. The irony is we're talking about this, I think last week even, how we have to find time for this. It's just a half hour, but it's 3 people. We have stuff going on. So anyway, I'm glad to see they're putting a stake in the ground. It's clear that they're making a programming wheel. Do you want to go over what the programming is?
Yeah, so we've already seen a few, but now they're going to go with Andrew Hops and senior designer Brian Frank, and they're going to explore the art and design behind Oryx's inscrutable loot-filled fortress, the Dreadnought.
I know that's not true, so I don't know why.
And then after that, we're going to do a ride-along with the audio team focusing on all aspects of its creative process, from sound effects to dialogue. And then another episode will look into Clan Resolute. That episode in particular will focus on what it means to be part of an in-game clan.
Yeah, I was going to say they help them actually do some of the bug testing and stuff, I think, right? So report back.
So as a guy who went to college and wanted to be a game designer, this stuff is super interesting to me. The community at large, however, I don't know if they're I think the hardcore are going to enjoy these ride-alongs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is this is, it kind of hits on 2 notes, right? Bungie's been criticized in the past for being very opaque with their communication with the audience, right? People often don't know what Bungie's working on, if they're working on anything. Obviously, we know they're working on stuff all the time.
Great use of vocabulary, Sean.
You're
not
welcome.
Quite see-through.
Not transparent. And this is a really good thing that they can do to kind of be constantly engaged with the community and kind of letting them in on what they're working on or how they work on things. So that's one great thing about it. But like you said, I think this is something that is going to be more enjoyed by the hardcore fans of Destiny, those people who have interests beyond just playing the game, which I would say is probably not the majority of the audience, right? Most people just want to play Destiny and play new stuff.
It's Blu-rays before and now, the extras on getting stuff. Not everybody wants to watch
the director's
avatars.
Commentary.
Director's commentary. But some people are crazy about that.
Yeah,
stuff,
I'm a big movies guy, and this is something I say all the time. But one of these things that I love to do is I'll go watch a movie that I love, and then instantly I'll just play the movie again with the director's commentary, just so I can hear all the insights and stuff, that the challenges that they faced, and kind of what the creative decisions they were wrestling with at the time. That's all very interesting to me, and I can imagine that if you're a huge fan of Destiny, or you're like Destin, and you have an interest in game design, that you'll probably get a lot of cool insight to how big AAA shooters are made.
That's what I'm hoping. I always know that I'm playing the objective card, that we don't know how it was before we jump to conclusions, yada yada, but maybe out of this we get some insights. We'll see how much they really share. I'm sure PR, knowing how PR works, is a little scared of a live environment, and that was probably part of the thing where they're like, I don't know that I want your designers on a live stream, and next thing you know, someone slips up and reveals something that's for the next game.
They've already had
2, or what was it? Last of Us 2 in their own live stream. Remember that?
Oh, I don't remember this.
During a Sony live stream, a Naughty Dog designer revealed that Last of Us 2 was a thing.
Exactly. See, when you're performing live
before
like that,
was
you blurt something out, man.
Because you're so used to talking with the people you're communicating with.
And it was
on the
super
stream.
small. He just goes, and with the game's sequel, they were playing The Last of Us, and he goes, and with the sequel, and we were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Sequel? So there is a sequel. We all knew it was coming. But
you
that's
just confirmed
exactly what
it.
PR is working.
Those are whoops.
Totally. Those are highly controlled messages. So, and, that's, I think, was probably some of the fear. Interacting with the community, which is what this is, a ride along. It's not just watch us ride. So they're going to have to answer questions. But they've been doing this long enough, and they should know how to moderate through that. But we hope there's some slip-ups, obviously.
And when there's big content that drops, we'll get our first look with their streams. They've confirmed that. They've done that in the past also.
Yep.
So
yeah, I mean, why don't we move on to that, right? Like they're talking about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Should we move on to that?
Go ahead.
I mean, they've obviously been talking about the spring update is coming. It sounds like it's going to be part of these ride-alongs. Like we saw that with Prison of Elders. They did like the live, bigger streams. So Bungie
Light level increase, new PvE events.
Yeah, they said this last week, by the way. They just are doing this thing where they're like, we hear you. We know you want us to be more transparent. So as a reminder.
Less opaque.
Yes, less opaque. They said they will be unveiling new details for the spring update. Spring is defined as several months of the year, by the way, so we don't know. I'm betting on late May again. Though an exact date for the announcement has not been set. When do you guys think the announcement might come? I mean, it's end of February. So whatever. If House of Wolves came out the end of May last year.
Second week of May.
I'll bet you it's going to be late in May because I'll bet you they'll just tie it in with E3. Like whatever they're announcing will be playable or like showable at E3 as well.
Well, no, the spring update's going to hit.
Oh, it'll
spring.
go live.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we're
they've
going to get
done
an
that
update before
right?
E3. I'm very confident.
Right, but I mean, what they've done is like a lot of games have released just prior to E3, and then like there's still a kind of headliner at E3 just like weeks later. Like Last of Us was one of those great examples that was just like that. It's still big at the Sony conference, even if it had just released. You don't think that there's any chance of that being Destiny?
I don't think it's going to come that late. Like E3 is going to be about the September or October release or whatever that's going to be, and it's going to be big, hopefully.
Yep.
Whereas this is the spring update. So I really actually don't remember.
So maybe if that's the case, then maybe it's earlier. Maybe it'll come like... Because let's say we assume that whatever Sony decides to talk about as far as Destiny goes at E3 will be that big Taken King 2 or whatever it is in September. Like maybe we get the update sooner.
Right.
So I think
April?
it should be March, but we know their next 3 live streams, what they have scheduled out, so there's no way it's going to be in March unless it's the last week. So I don't think it'll be April. That seems like a weird time to drop DLC.
What if they dropped it on
It'll be
April
May. It'll be
Fools?
second week of May.
I think
That's
we're
my
talking about
guess.
two different things, though.
Yeah.
I was asking, when do we think we'll just hear more on the spring update? The
Last week of March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not when will the DLC be released, and not when will they actually show it. So I actually think they will start to peel. I think they'll start to show off some details. Yeah, maybe the end of March or beginning of April.
We'll get screenshots.
Now, right, like meaning maybe just hinting. We're going to show you more. Here's a glimpse of things to come. And then they'll do their big event to like peel the wrapper off on whatever the late April or May update is, whatever that may be.
If that is the timeline they go with, I mean, maybe we'll see it in April. I don't think of April as a month that you see add-ons to products.
You don't, but again, think of
like May.
Think of like just the sequence of how the campaigns need to go. So, like for example, when did they drop the Taken King trailer? E3 last year, right?
Yeah.
So they had to get ahead of that and make sure House of Wolves was out the door and a thing before E3. Otherwise, they start overlapping and it's confusing. You know, they have to think about that. So that's why I think well before May. So in April, we'll hear more. I don't know if we'll see it. But that's what they have to get it out. Maybe there will even be a trailer, right? Because trailer is not showing it. So that's what I was saying.
Changing my answer. Last week of April, like into May.
There you go.
Like right at the beginning of May.
I think somewhere in there we'll see more, but they won't show it. Yeah, I think maybe till who knows, beginning of May. Like the actual who knows if it's an hour-long stream. But that stuff happens again like a week before it's out. Remember, that's how they're doing this.
So I have a question for you guys. We know what we're going to see for the next 3 weeks. Not a lot's going on in Destiny. We have Iron Banner. Trials is going on as it does all the time. That's kind of worrisome. How do you guys feel?
I mean, I think that this is, like I said, designed to be a little bit of a stopgap to buy them some more time, right? Like, I don't think there's any way that they can push content out the door faster than they already are.
Yeah.
So there are going to be some of these dead points. It kind of sucks because, like...
You want to play.
Yeah, I want to play. Like,
but I have no reason to.
I do really, I mean, I love Destiny. I've spent many, many hours playing it, but like I said on many episodes before, like I am very progression oriented, and I'm right at the top of the mountain. Like I don't have to, that one extra point of light, like I said, I'm 319 on both characters, like, and I won't play a third.
They're bumping it to 330 also, so you have no reason to even strive towards that.
Not
320
confirmed,
right now.
speculated.
Yeah, but I mean, right
There's
now
items
in the database.
in their database that
Yeah.
are 330.
Oh yeah, remember that item that was in the database that was a material that would increase your drop rate? And,
No, that was in the code. That was reverse engineered from the code.
Fair, but it's the point is it's not what's in the database is not necessarily the
right.
final
So,
thing.
but what I mean is currently in the
Caveat.
game we are at 320 light and I'm at 319, which means like that little bit of progression that I could do isn't worth it for me. Isn't worth the massive amount of effort, right? Like because I'm also about efficiency, right? So
there's no way I'm spending time to grind to 320.
yeah, like I haven't touched.
I'll take my 320 Ghost though from Crimson Days.
Yeah,
sure,
I got the
sure.
candy shell.
That's easy enough.
and I got
That's
the
an
chocolate
easy
shell.
bar that you can reach that'll bring me back. If
Right.
they do more stuff like that,
Well,
great.
the other thing is like it doesn't. I'm not even arguing that it has to be easy, but it has to be worthwhile for sure. Like
Yeah.
it can be hard if it's worthwhile, but it's not. Like the
Yeah.
DPS increase you get
The
from being
reward.
320 versus 319 is. I wouldn't even call it negligible. I would say there is no DPS difference, right? Like that that anyone can notice scientifically.
Yep.
So why even bother? That's a bummer because I love Destiny and I want to play it. But like I said, the last 2 months I've just been playing Halo, and then I actually come back to Destiny. and I'm like, where are all the frames?
Yeah, right. I know it's hard to switch from 60 to 30.
Here's a bizarre thing to me. Why not bring back Sparrow Racing? Why not keep it
Yeah,
in there?
actually,
It's a
I do-
great fun event.
I did
You
like
know?
Sparrow
Why the
Racing. It
heck
was
would they
fun.
just it's
So-
gone. You spent your $10.
So
See ya.
But you guys
It's
are
crazy.
You are summing up the exact problem.
Yeah.
They got to the end of the year in December. There was no Dark Below release. They're scraping with like different variations on Iron Banner and
Yeah,
whatever.
they're
They got
scraping by.
SRL.
That's a great
exactly
wording of how
SRL.
they're doing it.
Yeah, they scraped that together, I think. And by the way, good job. I think the community liked it. Some people didn't care, but like you said, great. Something else to do.
Yeah.
Like it's nice to hop in. You know, we suffer from these weekly drops because like I kind of am at the point in the game where I kind of might want to hop in, do a little better.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do some trials, but maybe I'll hop over to SRL. But because it's all segmented up because of this calendar, you don't have a lot of stuff to do all the time. But anyway, for me, and I think you guys are echoing the same thing, it's like you kind of got to January and just not much happening.
Yep.
And they got like Crimson Doubles, but honestly, it really was like playing a weird Trials card.
Yep.
So it was fun. I actually like the Elimination 2v2, but it wasn't. The reward was not there. And in fact,
Exactly.
they apparently, it sounded to me like they accidentally screwed up the drop rate. So instead of pissing off the community, they said, okay, just play the 7 matches. We're not going to make you guys like waste 20 hours of your time to get a 320 goes. Good call, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to not make the community play 20 hours every weekend. Like, that's not a good metric of success if they're mad half the time.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the point is it wasn't that fun. So long story short, they're out of stuff. So I think, SRL's probably
Bring it back. Why not?
I'm sure it will be the end of the month, but what are they going to do if they bring it back this week?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like,
And
this
then
week's
people are
Iron
bored
Banner.
of it in 2 weeks.
So that's the thing. Like, it's probably not next week. They would have talked about it. So maybe it's 2 weeks from now with a new map, maybe. Cool. They've made it through, like, almost the end of March. But that's what's going on.
Yeah.
They're literally like, how are we going to make it to this update? Good news for me. I'm happy. I'm finally like, you know what? I like playing Trials once a weekend. Banner's fun, because I'm trying to get those drops still. I do still need those drops, but I don't want to sink a ton of time. Some good stuff in Banner this week, by the way. The Tormod's Bellows or whatever is 3 in the tube and tracking, which is a great roll. So go up, get to level 5 if you're going to play Banner. But anyway, where I'm going with this is I'm kind of happy because like I want to play Firewatch. I got in time with the Division beta,
Yeah.
and I went and started playing The Witness, and like I am definitely playing too much Destiny. It's a nice time to. It's almost a spring break.
That's actually a
Before
really
the
good
spring
point. It's
break.
like we've seen people say it before, but like people, for some reason, there doesn't seem to be like the general consensus that Destiny's an okay game to walk away from. Like, this is a perfect time to be like, yo, I've been playing too much Destiny. Let's play some other stuff out there. Like, as someone who has been taking a break from it for like a month.
Yep.
It's so nice to go back to other games and play that. Like, you know which game I went back and started finishing was Batman Arkham Knight.
Nice.
Like, I didn't finish
Yeah,
that the
me
first
neither.
time around. And I
That's
go
on my
back and I'm like,
list,
this is awesome. Like,
I'm almost to the point where I'm like, I'll just wait for Destiny 2.
yeah,
Like we think
just
it's coming at
2017?
E3. Well, like
Or you
if-
mean the big update at the end of the year?
at least if the big
If it's big
spring
enough for you.
update, I'll go check it out. But that's like what 4 hours of my time max.
I don't know how you're playing that update in 4 hours, Destin. Are you going to get like one?
It's not
drop?
gonna be that
Taken
big.
King was 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
Not to get all the drops.
Oh, no.
take
not
it
to
to
get
get
all
that's
the
the only
drops.
reason
Yeah.
to play. But yeah,
I'm saying the spring update, I don't think it's going to be that huge. But if hopefully I'm wrong and there's tons of great stuff to play, but I just
spring update? I don't
I'm
think
probably
it'll be
just
that
going to
big.
tear through it and then goes back on the shelf.
I'm rolling my eyes at that only because like you're going to want the new exotic or whatever and this other legendary weapon, and that you will not be able to do in 4 hours.
So that's actually a good transition point.
Banner alone takes like 6 to 8 hours. You know,
so that's
sometimes.
a good transition point into this. We're going to talk a little bit about the conversations that are going on in the community right now, and one of those conversations are: had I known.
That was the water glass.
Sure, Fran.
No one even heard it.
It was making a squeaky sound.
Had I known with each DLC that older content will become obsolete or dropped from rotation, I probably wouldn't have bought into Destiny. This is a Reddit thread from Brian ES, and he said, or at least not put so much effort into it. And that's one big concern. As Destiny has released each piece of DLC or each update, they've literally made everything else basically obsolete or much less worth your time, because you're now chasing that new high of 330, which was what we think the next update will bring, or the new gun that is released, or the new exotic, because that's the new thing you need to get.
Yeah. Maybe the best example is when Prison of Elders, rolled around, and you still could use some of those older weapons and stuff, but there just wasn't a big incentive to go back to Vault of Glass and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So that's what he's talking about. It's like, well, I really liked playing Vault of Glass. There's just no more incentive.
Well,
like, it didn't help you hit level 34.
Like
that's
DLC
what he's
1,
talking about.
you go to Dark Below, you hit max level, and then they release the next DLC, and it's just like, well, that was pointless. Like, all these weapons are well,
it's not
pointless.
right?
Actually, at that point, the weapons were still really great. So
the
you can actually
still good if you didn't have them.
There was still a reason to go to that raid. There was still a reason to go to Vault of Glass, and then you could go into Prison of Elders.
But what he's talking about, I believe, is that it didn't help you hit level 34 to go to Vault of Glass. Right, you weren't getting helmet drops.
Exactly. No, but you could still go for the weapons, because the weapons were still viable at that point.
That's true. Yeah. But I think what he's talking about is that, right? It started to negate the reasons to go back. I mean, I've never quite understood that, like why they don't bring all the raids up at the same time. I wonder if it's bug related, but I also wonder if it's a philosophy of keeping the community focused on certain tasks. But I will say it is extremely strange to me that there's not a Vault of Glass very hard at this point. I really thought, what an easy ad, all this, there's no content, to play right now. It seems like relatively easy to like
bump up the light level on the gear you get
this
from
coming
Vault.
from 3 non-game designers, by the way. Just saying. I'm on your side. I don't know why.
Well, because it's hard to understand why you can't just make them 320 weapons and then problem solved. Like, you know what I mean?
So here's my problem with it. Like, we're sitting here looking at what can we do right now? Iron Banner to reach 320. We can do
once a month.
We can do the raid once a week, and we can do Trials of Osiris. So 2 PvP things, 1 PvE. And you have all this phenomenal content that's literally just wasting away.
Yeah, like Vault is fun. I mean, I'm sure that it is coming.
It's just mind-boggling to me that they literally are making their old content obsolete to focus on 3 events.
I mean, I think we're all on the same page here.
Yeah.
We would all love to see those old raids and old content come back. Like, for weeks, for episodes, I've been saying that they should add all of the strikes into the heroic strike playlist. Like, why isn't that the case? I don't know. It doesn't seem that difficult for me to take content that's already in the game, update it just a little bit, so that people who are now higher than the level it once existed at can play it. I'm on your side there. We're getting We're getting a little away from the thread question, though, which is the whole idea of content staying relevant throughout Destiny's life cycle.
Yeah.
And he even says, he says, edit, I need to add this for those telling me that's how MMOs are. Bungie tried their hardest to tell everyone that this was not an MMO. When asked about Destiny being called an MMO, this is what they had to say as part of the latest weekly update, blah, blah, blah. We like the discussion.
Shared world shooter.
Yeah, we like the discussion and the constant debate about how to classify this game. Okay, so here's the thing.
They didn't classify it, actually.
Yeah, so Bungie doesn't strive to classify it. They're hesitant in calling it an MMORPG because it's not technically, it's instance, you're not a shared, the world persists, but it's not shared between all players on a server type thing at all times like a MMO traditionally is. But I think the philosophy of an MMO still stands. Like, the gameplay loop of Destiny is all about progression and chasing things that are better than what you currently have. If that is the gameplay loop and we can agree on that, then you have to know that stuff's going to go out of date eventually. Like, in other games, that's what happens, right? Like, you get a bunch of really good gear. It helps you do things efficiently for a certain period of time. But eventually, when new stuff releases and new content releases, that old stuff goes the way of the dodo. And it kind of sucks, but that's the gameplay loop. Like, I don't know that it's valid criticism. Well, I mean, it's totally valid. You can feel disappointed, but I don't think that it's... I don't think that you can actually criticize Bungie for doing that, because they were always upfront about how that was going to be. That's the game.
So let's look at 2 other threads that are going on in the community right now. This is from Axe31. Bungie, I have completed hard mode raid 56 times according to the Destiny tracker and have not received a single 320 class item. Working as intended ? And the second thread is Crazy Dala Day ZZ. These are from Reddit. Remember when raid weapons were actually sought after instead of used as infusion fuel? I love how they completely changed the design of the raid weapons, but I absolutely hate how Cocoon is taken up potentially a potentially useful perk slot. And Sean,
Cocoon's pretty good
I have to
in the raid.
Yeah,
I have
the
to
raid weapons.
Exactly. So you get these weapons that can only be used in that same raid to get better drops. There has to be more avenues for progression in Destiny. We have 3 avenues right now, and that's it. That's how you level up to max level. What if you maxed out by going through Vault of Glass and getting the 320? Or Dark Below? That makes that content relevant again. There has to be more ways to progress. And there's literally one way that you can do it if you're PvE. You can only do that raid over and over and over again, and you're going to lose your player base. Your player base is just going to bail.
But let's separate those things. The first question was actually, is the raid working as intended? I believe that's what he was getting at. I played 56 times. I've not gotten a single 320 class item.
And
Guess
that's
what?
the only way you can
Me
get
neither.
it.
I've not. None of us.
Through PvE.
A lot of us didn't get the 320 Ghost. Clearly, they set that to be more rare, but man, like, nobody's getting it. Problem solved with Crimson Doubles. Seemed like they kind of just had to do that almost. I don't think that was the plan.
Yeah.
So the class item, and maybe this is a question of like, maybe the next SRL, that's the drop.
Yeah.
Is they're gonna solve it with that. That's because that's how they were solving the helmet drops from the raid. So I would actually say yes. I believe the raid RNG is just not tweaked quite right. And however the complexity of all this works, it's just a reality.
You could just be really unlucky too. Like back in the Galahorn days, like Alfredo got 8 or 9 Galahorns before I got my first one.
But it's
like,
super.
I was super unlucky.
It's super. But most people were unlucky because it is the odds are. It's just odds. You know, they're stacked that way.
Totally.
So I don't think it's working quite as intended, and I say that because I've only got 2 315 ghosts, and then bonds I've gotten up on 317 to 318, but very rarely just like those single times.
Yep.
So what the heck? I've played it a ton. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't add that as part of the challenge modes. It seems like they actually don't want you to hit 320 though.
Yeah,
I mean that's
like,
part of how they keep you grinding.
It's 2 points, right? There's only one way to progress, like Destin pointed out, and that's through the raid. And they have to do like stopgap fixes. For PvE. They have to do stopgap fixes, like adding the item that everyone wants, the gear that everyone wants, to an external event, which is not really the way it should be working. And then it's also the fact that like, people are unlucky, the drop rates are low, and those are the most wanted pieces. So it like has this doubly negative effect, right? Where if you do it 50 times, you're going to be angry.
Yeah. But I don't think it's dropping as intended. Second question, I think we should answer though. Like, remember when the raid weapons were cool?
Yeah, they all had fire elemental damage. You could get Galahorn. You could get Vex Mythic class. The new raid weapons suck.
So let's do that quick comparison, because Sean, it's not that I think the cocoon effect on some of this stuff is awesome, and Herald Quillums is a killer machine gun.
Yep.
Good stuff from there, but you get it pretty quickly is the point.
Totally.
Now compare that to trying to get Vex Mythoclast. I mean, just the sound of that thing wherever you is awesome. I know, but you got it from Vault of Glass.
The only way you got it is Vault of Glass hard.
Let's go through the list first.
I
know you know this. Yeah. I'm just using you
saying
as a device. I'm using you as a device. Fatebringer. Okay, everybody may or may not know the quest that I went on to get that.
Love
crazy.
Fatebringer.
But you could only get it from the vault at what's the boss's name
Templar.
right there?
Templar, right?
Yeah, the Templar.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's that weapon. I actually really like Praetorian Foil, super high impact, super rare.
But
Fusion. So
I
all
got
this came
that
out of
one like
Vault.
a year after. Like it was like third
I got it
DLC
really early.
drop, and I was like, oh my god,
Yeah,
I got Praetorian.
You could, if you're up close to an Oracle, for example, you can nuke it in like one shot. So it was like really cool. Atheon's Epilogue, also high rate of fire, a little like Doctrine with void damage. Okay, so now let's move on to Crozen. Name a couple of those real fast. What do we got?
The sniper, Black Hammer.
Black Hammer, which was pre-Black Spindle.
Yeah.
But it had the white nail or whatever, right?
Yeah. Black Hammer was like you
Black
wanted that,
Hammer
and then
was
they
so
changed
good.
it and made it less desirable. That's
Oh no,
crazy.
not just less desirable. Totally not desirable.
Yeah.
They didn't just nerf it. It like they basically took that gun out of the game.
And they're like, well, let's make it an exotic, I guess.
Then you
But
had,
then it still uses ammo.
Yeah.
So many problems there.
Then you had the Void Hand Cannon, which dropped only at Crota, I believe. Necrochasm, which you got by getting the Crux, which you infused into this husk that you got out of, just the drops.
Some great elemental damage primaries, like Abyss Defiant, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And also...
The automatic fire arc damage pulse rifle.
I was just about to say, light. It's got light in the name. You made me forget it when you said it. But
Sorry.
right,
Yeah.
like we're going through a pretty sweet list
Man,
of weapons.
I remember talking about these weapons. I remember getting them and being excited. Do you know what I
used
don't
them in Prison
remember?
of Elders.
Any of the new raid weapons.
Yeah.
Because I infuse them like they're garbage into something else.
I do. I mean, Defiance of Yasmin is a great sniper. It's great for PvE and PvP overall. The hand cannons, Ahuli's Bane or whatever, just sucks. Smite of Rain is good though.
I use Smite.
As is Quillum's, and then the what's the rocket called?
Harrowed something.
Well, yeah, everything's Harrowed. Everything's Harrowed.
Ilium's Frenzy.
That's
Yeah.
it. Ilium's Frenzy. But
Sweet.
anyway,
do you remember that
decent
rocket
stuff.
launcher or Gallahorn?
Well, but
Again,
that didn't drop
Gallahorn's an exotic.
from Vault.
I'm just saying.
So, but right, we went through a huge list. of
Point
stuff.
taken.
Okay, so let's
A
compare
lot
it to
of those are
Heathen's.
exotic.
No,
Yeah.
so Heathen's Vengeance was 3 in the tube, I
Yep.
believe, from Vault, and then you had the tracking Hunger of Crota, which was the
I
rocket.
used
That was
Hunger of Crota a lot,
tracking,
too.
and then it would
Trust
explode
me.
around. Yeah.
We should do that comparison like now in one big list as a video because when you go through
I don't
everything,
think-
it's pale in comparison.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would make the argument that the current raid weapons are cooler than the old raid weapons. There's no way, right?
Yeah.
Like Fatebringer is legendary. Like I used Fatebringer.
Yeah,
As soon as I
so
got
cool.
Fatebringer, I was like, "Is this thing good?" And people were like, "That's the best hand cannon in the game."
Yeah, 'cause
they're
it
like,
was
"That should
arc
be the
damage
very next thing you should level
and
up." And I
Firefly.
spent a lot of time. Remember how we had to like level up bubbles like by using them and burning stuff on them.
Yep. The grind, man.
Yeah, and I finally got it to max, and I was like, "This thing wrecks," and I used it all the way through Taken King, even up until I went where I got my better weapons. But you're right; like these new weapons, they're purpose made for the raid. They have little to no, like sort of usability outside of the raid. Like I'd actually disagree with you. I don't think Defiance of Yasmin is that good as a sniper. Like it's fast in PvE.
It's
A lot
good
of people
for
would disagree with you.
It's
yeah.
good for PvE.
A lot of people really love the zoom and the scope. Actually,
See, the zoom is
good
like
for PvE, not PvP necessarily.
No, but he's
people
saying for PvP.
Love
1,000-yard stare is like
Yeah,
the
1,000
sniper.
yard
Of
stare.
rifle.
course it is.
100%.
But everything's got their perks. But trust me, I mean, Defiance
Even
it's on
Irene
the
or
list.
R4 I think is better. But whatever, you're right.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is like there's just not a lot of people using those weapons for anything besides the raid or
yeah.
PvE, which is not the best thing in the world, but like I do buy into the philosophy that like I'm the one of the few players, I guess not few, but like I don't really see a lot of other people with a totally different set of weapons and equipment and gear for PvP versus PvE. I have two entirely different sets.
Yeah.
And like I buy into this philosophy that like some of these guns should be more effective doing one thing than other, and I just think the raid weapons fall too squarely into that sort of track.
Well, they it's probably a topic for a longer show later.
Yeah.
We need to stretch out our topics as well.
Got
It's
it.
getting late. But what I will say is, right, you look back at the elemental damage and primary, I really feel like I don't understand that.
Like why they
there's-
took
right,
why they got rid of it.
elemental out.
I have no reason to use a lot of those raid weapons except for in the raid. And then as you go through the list, I think we could talk about the weapons we actually used out of the year one.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get into year two raid weapons, like it's a small list of what you actually use and where. And they need to fix that.
It's confusing. Final thoughts from me. Sean, I actually have to disagree with you. You say, like, that's how MMOs work. It
What
doesn't,
is?
like, where the next piece
Content
of content
becomes outdated.
is how you strive for an end game. I disagree with you because just because that's how they work doesn't mean that's how they should work.
No,
And-
I'm not
and
even
with-
talking about
yeah.
MMOs. What I'm talking about is like what like if you had to distill Destiny, like let's say Destiny didn't exist, but you were building it. What is the gameplay loop, right? The gameplay loop is this constant progression forward and constant tweaking to get better and better, right, over time, either via gear or via weapons, right?
But audience expectation, and I did want to have the same comment, I think, was like, you know that because you've played a ton of MMOs and stuff. A lot of people don't understand that that's potentially going to happen. So I think the issue is his expectation, regardless of the fact that there's a precedent. He didn't know that like the raid was going to be like unleveled, you know, and left behind. So like, I do understand. I think it's a fair point.
No,
you know what I mean?
I agree with you. It is a fair
about
point
expectation.
Because like it is a fair point. I'm not saying that he can't feel this way or anything, but like what I'm saying is that I think
you're off the hook, man.
Yeah, on a basic, like the basic understanding of what this game is dictates a philosophy that's antithetical to this. You know, like it doesn't. It would be like me criticizing Halo, or it would be like me criticizing Dota for only having one map. For you MOBA people out here, Dota only has one map.
I think
the variation, the variation and the difference in gameplay changes by the heroes and the teams you play, not by the map.
Yes.
And that would, to me, that's the same similar argument. It's like you're criticizing the game for something that it never was supposed to do.
Well,
but
right
again,
now Destiny only has one map. It's called the new raid.
But that's why it's about expectation. I do think when you said actually that you knew it was going to happen that way, we didn't. We didn't know that like, you know, the gear, you know, the helmet, the chest would be left behind from raid to raid. So that was new. And I think that's what we say. I didn't know that I was going to sink all this time in the vault. And who knows when you did it. Maybe you did it right before Dark Blow. And then next thing you know, it's like, I can't really use that anymore. That was a huge problem. So anyway, I think if I
got to 320 through Vault, or I got what's the new raid off the top? I'm blanking. King's Fall. If I got there through King's Fall, who cares? I have a story to tell that I got through Vault. There's still stuff that I want in King's Fall. There's still stuff that I want to get in Dark Below, but not right now. Right now, there's 3 things I can do: Trials, Iron Banner, King's Fall.
Yeah, and only at certain times.
And that needs to be fixed. Bungie, I'm begging you. You have phenomenal content that is just dead.
Chilling.
Mm-hmm. It's just dead. No reason to go there. Like, I can go there for fun if I want to, but the player base wants to strive towards something.
And again, to preface, like I'm on this guy's side, like and on your guys' side. Like I really wish that Bungie would update old stuff too, old strikes, old raids, because I do want to go back and play that content. But what I am saying is that I don't think it's a valid criticism to say that the whole game needs to be updated to the same level at every iteration of the game. That's just not.
Yeah, but it's
not
not
every iteration.
Right, but again, it's separate.
Or every DLC.
I get what you're saying.
You know?
But again, I think it's separate issues. His was mostly about audience expectation and being transparent to the audience ahead of time. So I think we get the game now, though. So the good news is you can expect this type of thing in the future.
We could go on this for a really long time.
We should
gotta
wrap up.
It up.
I do want to put it out there for you all to think about, maybe for a future topic. I now have a theory, listening through all this, that it's a maintenance issue. Because we see all the bugs that creep up. And so imagine running all the servers with all the different things and remember when ogres are warping? We should talk about that. I have a feeling it might have something to do with the support teams. How much can you support at once?
Yeah.
Let's table that first.
They have
what do you guys
they
think?
have this live team, right, that is responsible for creating stuff and maintaining stuff on the fly. And then there's teams that build stuff that are big in the future. I'm sure what it is like, they have the team that designed the raid. That raid is finished, and then it ships, and then that team is now working on a different raid or something else down the line. And it's someone else's job to make sure that raid is just working perfectly, but they're already doing King's Fall and already doing other stuff.
So we should talk about that later. Bungie, a great idea for a ride-along. Tell us about how that works and help us understand.
There we go. Guys, thank you for joining me. We got to get out of here. Thank you guys for joining us. Leave us a review on iTunes. Check out our store. Go.ign.com.
Wearing the shirt.
/store, right?
Yeah. IGN.com/store. Get a Fireteam chat shirt.
Put it on your body.
Yeah.
I do all the time.
Until next time, Guardians out.